Welcome back to another part. This is still episode 1. We're up to part 6. Today's farm. This is our Clark County, Georgia map with the Georgia Geo. We're on a 24-day calendar. We finished all our plowing and cultivating and sowing jobs. The only thing we have left are fertilizing jobs. Welcome, Agamemnon, and we're on YouTube, not live. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you want to know the next time our videos are out. We release videos quite frequently. We stream on Twitch mainly, 5 nights a week from Friday to Tuesday from midnight to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we usually stream World of Tanks for 3 hours from midnight to 3 a.m. and from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. we play DC Universe Online. And then the last game from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is Farm Simulator 19. Still listening to our country. This is our fertilizer truck. I bought 3 of these trucks. I used 2 of these. This one specifically for fertilizing. The other one I use for spreading the herbicide. And then I have the lime truck version. I have really enjoyed the Stera. This is the Imperator. I think they're very useful and they get the job done and very efficient. Trying to work on a way to... I had a way that I was resupplying fertilizer trucks in the field so you could just go from job to job real quickly and then refuel them, resupply them in the field, but trying to do it with our main service truck, and I think I figured out a way to get the liquid fertilizer there, but the dry fertilizer you have to do with the auger truck, and that can present complications. I like the banjo playing going on there. Computer banjo sounds pretty good. I love bluegrass music. Here's the T-Rex. Bring our we got that guy started on that build, and we are now going to bring our stuff over while he's going to work. That's our Case IH quad track. Now the seed truck is empty, so we released it so we can send it back. It's done its job. And we gotta bring the auger truck back. I like this auger truck. It does seeds. I believe it does lime too. Dry fertilizer. Actually, it does the dry fertilizer. It doesn't do lime. We were using the I forget, is it Benford? Whatever. The Bentnor truck. But I think that was a little too large for our needs. So we're trying out this one. I think I'm going to settle on this one. It's a nice little truck. It's about, if you use the IT runner with a liquid tank, you could put the liquid fertilizer in there. And then you can use this, which is twice the size well, liquid fertilizer is only 5,000 liters, but the dry fertilizer truck holds 8,000. So if you use a 13,000 liter tank for the dry material and the 5,000 liter liquid fertilizer, so when you send your fertilizer crew out to fertilize people's fields, that truck can tow the auger truck and resupply that fertilizer truck in the field. Or if you're doing spraying jobs, you can then switch that out and load the herbicide on there, and just use the liquid truck to resupply that. And then for the line, you could use the bent bird truck to resupply that. You could release that when you need it. Its line doesn't spread very far, so you'll have to do a couple applications with that. But I'm wondering if we're better off just driving the vehicle back to the site. Because then you always have to buy the line in like massive quantity. It's okay because you're always using lime. It's really inexpensive, but still, I'm trying to buy a lot of quantity of lime. I do know people who buy massive quantity of wine. Take a shortcut. One of the reasons why we built this park here is so that we could take a shortcut back to the farm. I think we ended up just parking this here. There wasn't really a hurry, and we needed to get this tractor back. I know what I did. I emptied the seeds into the IT runner, and then we sent the auger truck back to the leasing office. We at this point of the year, we've definitely put the leasing officers, the people that work there, their children are going to a great college, and we're funding it. Go ahead and ride. I believe this is Malcolm. Yeah. Now I always start with the horses in the back stable there. Try to ride them in daytime, so if we lose the sunlight, we'll be in this one, and it's a shorter distance to the riding building to train the horse. Remember, when you're riding a horse in the game, it's about how long you ride the horse. Doesn't matter how fast you go. It only matters how long you ride the horse. You still have to ride it for 15 minutes to get the 300% riding, daily riding. Which you could just ride it 5 minutes, get the 100%, but I feel we're cheating the customer when we do that. The grappler's already stuck. I ended up buying that field. What ended up happening was in last night's last night I played the game off stream, but and I recorded it. But I end up buying the dairy barn because I was watching other farms and the 10th generation dairyman. And then I watched another site, a newer site that I found, and the guy mainly fixes stuff, but he owns a dairy farm too, but it's a little bit larger. And I have learned by playing this game and watching a couple farmers how to recognize the different type of barns. And I'm noticing that the Lone Oak barn, as good as it isn't a dairy barn. That barn is more designed if you're raising cattle for consumption. They call it the beef industry. That's appropriate for it. It has a little thing off to the side for milk, but it's mainly, that barn is really for beef industry. So I felt if you're really role playing, we needed a proper dairy barn, and I went and found one. And so I had just built, right before we started filming this episode, the cattle pasture, and I moved all the male bulls over to the pasture. But then once I really started understanding the different barns, I decided we needed a proper dairy barn, which we would move all the cows over. So I found a really inexpensive one that holds about 500 cows, and it's a really nice one. And that'll be coming up in episode 2, where we install that. And I put it in that north field, which we were planning on using that. We were going to let that sit dormant and then plant cotton on it, or corn, actually, we were going to grow on there. I was contemplating we were going to grow cotton in the spring, and then the summer crop would be corn. And then, so when we used that field for the dairy barn, which took up most of the field, I went and bought the lot across the street, which is the lot the guy's fertilizing now. I bought that one, and the one south of it, and he had barley grown on that. So we got 3 good fields of barley now from fields that we bought, which we're gonna just harvest that barley. But he planted that barley really late, so if we end up losing the barley, it's not a big deal. We didn't pay for the seeds, so it's just free. Came with the field. So we're gonna hold off until we can grab that barley, because we need barley for the chickens, and I believe the pigs eat barley. Pigs require 3 major crops, which is corn, barley, and canola. We're growing canola, we're growing oats, and barley is what we really needed, which we got on this field. So in the future, we don't have a field for corn, and that's really what we need for the pigs going forward, because the pigs are going to start, they're already reproducing right now, and once they get going, the population we have in the pig farm was started at 1/5 the size, 100 out of 500, and they're going to start having pigs really fast, and that population is going to grow really fast in the next 2 years. So we're going to really have to have that food handle on it by next autumn. And so I built a separate area for the piglets, the male pigs, and then the main area is just going to be for the females, because they expand on their own. And then we're going to raise the male pigs for consumption along with the cows. What we ended up doing was moving cows, male bulls and female cows. We moved the cows over to the dairy barn, and then we moved the male bulls back over to the old farm barn, and then we scuttled the pasture to reclaim the slots. And then in that area, I put another chicken coop. And the idea there is it's a 400 unit chicken coop. We're going to put all the Cornish cross over there, and because they don't reproduce. But at this time of year, starting in the midsummer, Cornish cross, the price drops on them where there's zero. It's still a small cost because whenever I buy, it hits me with a $9 bill, even though it says a zero price. So there's a price involved, but it's basically free. But I buy a 10, basically, a day, and I'm going to do that for 24 days. And then as the Cornish cross chickens mature, then we're going to be able to sell 10 a day moving forward. So we needed enough room for 240, and then they mature like after a month, sometime I think a month or 2 months. I assume 2 months. So if you don't sell the Cornish cross right away, they die and you lose them. But at the end of the year, from midsummer on through the first of spring, they're virtually free. So, and even if you buy them in the springtime, they're usually about $1 to purchase, and they go up to like $7 at some point, and in value. So, because they're selling by pound, right? I don't know how much you get per kilogram, but the kilograms go in 2, 3, and 6 kilograms. So like a 12 and 13 pound rooster would be 6 kilograms, and then about half, and then 4 kilogram chicken is about 8 pounds, which is like the Rhode Island Reds. The Cornish cross is just a little under that, around 7 pounds, and then the Leghorns, they get around 6.5 and 7, just a little smaller, but they lay eggs really fast. And then there's a fourth one. We have the roosters. So they're 2 kilograms, 4 kilograms, and 6 kilograms usually is the target weights you get with them. Actually 2, 3, 4, and 6 kilograms, which the 6 kilograms is the 12 and 13 pound chicken, which this Thanksgiving we didn't have, family didn't come down, so we only had like 2-3 people eating, and this year we didn't bake a turkey, we baked a 10-pound chicken. Which I've been growing chickens in the game, and I know like a 12-pound rooster, that's the size of a rooster, so that's how we ended up with a 10-pound chicken. Tiny turkey, but a really large chicken. But because we sell eggs every day, and I think if we're selling eggs every day, that's where the Cornish cross really make their money, because the other male chickens, who are the Red Island Rhodes and White Leghorn, they take a year to grow. So the price for them go up in the spring. So if we stack our Cornish cross now, where you're just buying them every day, right? So at some point, 10 a day, you're going to be able to sell them in about a month or two. So then it's a normal cycle. Then you're just slowly replenishing them, and then each day, and then the other chickens are gonna come up to wait in the spring. So you have those 3 weeks, and then so you can make, if you sell them and mix them in with the Cornish cross with the eggs, that is essentially a bonus that you're going to get with the chickens. And then the hens, you can get about 6 years out of the hens and about 6 years out of the rooster, where you have to really replenish, but the hens are already replenishing them, so it kind of pays for itself. Right? And then same thing with the pigs. The female pigs, if you keep them in their own area, they replenish themselves, and you just have to sell the male pigs off, and you only have to do that once a year. But at some point, that population's going to get big, and then you have to sort of wait till they get about 60 pounds, and then you sell the male piglets off. And it's sort of how you make money. The cows, on the other hand, yeah, they take a full year to grow, and but you get a lot of money from a cow. Those bulls are like 1,100 pounds. Yeah, pounds. I don't know what they are in kilograms. I haven't really looked, but I'm slowly getting used to using kilograms and liters. Like in the U.S., the only time I use a liter is like when you're buying like a 2 liter. Right? And I know alcohol is sold in a liter, right, which they call a fifth. But I'm used to ounces. And buying eggs like in a dozen, 12 dozen, right? Ounces sort of go in 12s, right? And I'm used to, like with plants, I'm used to bushels. And so getting used to liters and kilograms is, and it's kind of tough. You know, I have to really think about it. And then, but with this game, I've got to use it in a practical way that I kind of can relate it to something, right? I still like using ounces, what they call jiggers, cups, ounces, and because with ounces, they're liquid ounces, and then they're dry ounces, and they're measured different. Even though they're ounces, they're measured a little differently. And then I'm used to bushels. And then in the U.S., they use the British thermal unit for like heating systems. I guess everywhere else they use calories, right? Calories. Or like in the U.S., with rockets, they use foot pounds, and then Europeans use Newton. Newton per, I guess, kilograms. Returning. If one lap is all you really need to do, and it tends to, when you get back to the barn, it's just a little over 300, and that's perfect for the horse. And the last thing I do after I take care of, I try to top off their straw in the 6 o'clock hour, or after I get done riding the horses, and then I top them off again because I get up at 6 in the morning on the farm, service the animals, and do the straw in that 2-hour time period. So the straw is generally being topped off every 12 hours, and then the food's being reset every 24 hours. Tends to be, but as the population size gets bigger, then that is going to grow. But I've pretty much consolidated everything down to using the IT runner. I find that IT runner truck is, that and the telehandler are the most used vehicles. Now see here, he got screwed up by those trees. I just bought that field, so the first thing I'm doing is those trees are gone. Chop them suckers down. Gotta square off the field. And then on the west side of that barn, I'm gonna put a road in there which goes all the way down to where we're cutting logs, because that road going north goes right to the sawmill. And then so probably not going to even use this side. I want to use this field for corn growing, and I bought the field just directly south, which is across from our main farm, and that's going to be used for corn. And then what I might do is since we have that main road going in there, I might square off the field, a little field, and just extend it over to the one across from there, since the road's going to be coming, so it'll gain length even though it's going to lose some width or be split in two, basically. And then the fields west of it are going to become wider fields. And then it's going to be easier for the fertilizer trucks and AI units to service the fields, I think, going forward. One thing too is we don't want to buy too many fields, because we need other people, because they're going to provide all the contracts, right? If you buy up all the lots, there won't be any contracts. We won't have any money to make in the middle of the year. So I'm going to have to go up and calculate how many acreage our farm has in total, so we know we're hitting that 300 acre farm, which is the size of the farm in the fan fiction story. And that's the number that we settled on for a family farm. Makes sense. The first map I started playing on when I started playing this was the Ravenport map, and I still have that farm. And at first I wasn't using the season. And then when we started using the season, we were still growing cotton, but we had to use a different geo, which was really, I think, like a North Carolina geo, because the Georgia geo, when it originally came over to seasons, didn't have cotton on it. So, which was kind of weird, because that's sort of what Georgia is known for, is growing cotton and growing peaches. And then it's the cotton state, right? So the fact that that crop wasn't on there kind of, wouldn't say it upset me, but I was a little taken back. Like, who did the research? And then I'm glad when they updated that, they put it on, which was kind of cool. And then, but on our Ravenport map, that's where I learned to drive the forklift, do logging. And by logging, I mean I used a chainsaw to remove trees from the property, and then I rented a little truck to transport the stuff to the sawmill, which on the Ravenport map from the farm is a pretty good distance. On that map, the transporting jobs were always big jobs. You had to go there with a load lifter and drive the I used a forklift, and then you would drive that over there, and then with the pickup and then the main load lifter on the semi, you use that to move all the freight, because they would always give 5 and 6 pallets you have to move, and then you had to move them all the way across town, which was always a good distance. And then that was always paid well, but those were pretty big jobs all the time. And then fertilizing jobs were big then, And then that's where I really started getting into using liquid fertilizer for the contracts, and then the dry fertilizer for my own jobs, because it's the liquid fertilizer, if you're buying in bulk, is a little cheaper than the dry fertilizer. So, but the dry fertilizer has a 48, I believe it's 48 meter spread, same as, and then that's what's being used here, and then the, it might be 38 meters, but the liquid fertilizer, when you put the wand out, it's only 30 meters. So the liquid overlaps the liquid, the dry fertilizer overlaps the liquid by 4 meters on either side of the tractor. So when I'm laying out my fields, like I was saying earlier, I usually seed first, then do the herbicide, and then do lime, because if you did the fertilizer before the lime or herbicide, it's hard to see the field. Right? So I do the herbicide first, so everything's treated with the seed, and then the lime comes in and lowers the pH balance, and then the fertilizer then adjusts the nitrogen levels of the soil. But with the sprayer system, it's easier to, because if you do the herbicide, it blackens the field, makes that dark path, and if you come back and do the fertilizer, it's hard to see. You can't really see what you did and what you didn't do. And so I throw the lime because it makes the field white, and then you know exactly where the fertilizer's going. Here's the herbicide. Now here I'm going to go over, because I squared off that field and I turned it over to the labor. So now I'm going to go to this middle field and do the herbicide. Now when you're doing herbicide in Farm Sims 19, you can't hire a worker. You have to manually do it yourself. I don't know why, but the game requires it. So, yeah. We were still, at the time we shot this video, we were still doing the construction on it. But I had just rented that T-Rex and cleared out the bushes and trees. You can see where the ground's all lumpy. I ended up smoothing that out once we put the cow barn in there, which is in, I think, the next part of the video. But go down. I haven't surveyed this field yet, but we're gonna go ahead and spray it. I call this the Wisconsin field. Technically, it could be the Arkansas field too. Right. Time I was shooting this video, I had decided to plant trees on this field, but I'm leaning towards barley now. I know now that we need, I planted wheat first because the chickens really need it, and for some reason I was thinking that the cows needed wheat, but they don't. The cows just need hay and silage, and a lot of people use the wheat for making silage, but you don't need that. You can use hay to make silage, right? And you get that 6 times a year, and I feel that you're better off using hay for silage than cutting down your crops. But if we do the canola, then the chickens and the pigs can eat the canola, and wait, the pigs use the canola, but the pigs and chickens can use the barley, right? And then, so I'm feeling barley, oats, and corn and canola should be our winter crops. And then in the spring, all our fields are devoted to cotton. But like our other fields, I'm not sure if we're going to sell the cotton all at one time. I'm thinking I want to use that red barn where we just purchased a field where we're going to grow the corn as the storage place for the cotton, because you can't put cotton in a silo. And then but you can store it and then I don't know, I might sell the cotton all at one time because there's no reason to store it. But I'm leaning towards that barn over there as a place to store our either straw reserve or hay reserve. But we have a commodity barn right here that has a sell point on it, and that's where I was keeping the straw bales. But on my farm, I use the bales as our emergency supply of straw. And since the pigs and the cows use straw, I wanted to keep an emergency supply by the pigs, and another emergency supply in the commodity barn, and then another emergency supply in the old cow barn. Especially since I built the dairy barn, the commodity barn is closer. But I have an actual silo which has 500,000 liters of straw in it, right? So that's not in the bale form. Because well, we have the animal truck which we use for straw, and that can, the bales are in 4,000 units, and that truck holds 17,000 liters. So you could, what's that? 4 bales basically, right? 16,000 liters. You can tear up the straw. I can even take the straw from the ground. So I think that's the way to go. And I've been watching a lot of these real farmers, and they keep the silage in these bunker silos. They don't go and put it in, because it is a silo, and they just, throughout the years, they scoop it out and use that. So I'm thinking the place that we have, because I moved all that to its own little 500,000 liter, but I'm thinking that we didn't need to do that. Right? So I might just let that silage go away, like run its course, and then in the future just use the bunker silos to make the silage and keep it over there, right? However, you're going to have to store the silage at some point, because the weather, it'll start rotting away if it's not covered, right? Or in a bale form, which then it has to be in one of the normal silos, right? I don't know, I'll have to investigate that. I might do is just keep a little silage in one of those bunkers and then let it sit over the winter and see what happens. Won't be able to test it till spring. But, that might be a good experiment. Then you'll know. Now see, I was weeding this, but it wasn't showing up on the ground, so I was thinking we didn't need to do, because we had laid the herbicide when we laid the seeds, which was only 2 weeks ago, so we might have to wait for weeds to appear before we can apply a herbicide again, right? I think that's what's going on here. So I stopped. I don't want to waste any more herbicide. Clean the truck and put it away. And based on what's gone on in the last 2 herbicide periods where we prepped the fields, I sold the, I call it a rake, but where you remove the weeds with the tool on the tractor. I call it a giant rake. The rake, it's actually what it is, the rake. Rake out the weeds. And I felt we didn't really need that anymore since we got the sprayer. Sprayer truck. And I reclaimed the slots. Having the slots was a better advantage. Alright, coming up on the 42-minute mark. Just under 20 minutes left. It's now 2 minutes after 6 o'clock. The sun's going to be setting. This guy's, once he gets done, we're going to go back and ride the horses. And I got to take these back. Now this is why we laid out this field this way, is its primary reason was for the horses, and we wanted to lay out this raceway, and then so we could just drive right over the grass because we're just growing grass that's not going to get destroyed by the tractor, and then we can come in this little inlet that I built, and we can come in through the back way. You don't have to take these long arcs back to the farm. It's coming through the back gate. I don't know who the Stara company is, but all the products we've used from them have been pretty good. The guy's empty. $17,000 in the bank. Bam. I don't think we did any more fields because the sun was setting. I didn't feel we needed to. We did the one south. We'll find out in a minute. Completely forget what I actually did. I thought I ended up spraying the field south of it because I remember going along the telephone pole, the electrical pole side, and then the back side I remember squaring it off, and then we bought the field. But I remember buying the field on the next day. Field 32 there. He bought 26 and 32 the next day. But he fertilized field 32 because I remember we had to go fertilize it, and then I bought the field after he paid us to fertilize it. always take the paycheck, then buy the field. That's how you do it. Yeah, the cow barns are already over there. We ended up getting rid of that. It was only on the property like 2 days. So now we have a proper dairy barn, and it's a beautiful barn. I love our farm. I love our fields. They're so pretty. So organized and got it together. And no one would ever know looking at that field that the person that built it has OCD, right? But when we got the dairy barn, I didn't know that on the picture it didn't look that big. And then I was like, man, this place is massive. And the only place it would fit is on that field to the right. So it was perfectly or as flat as we could get. And that's where I dropped the dairy barn. And it worked out great because coming out of this area, it's right across this street. There's a water thing right next to it, so the water truck doesn't have to go far. And then the grass barn is right across from it, and the hay barn is right across from it. So, and then the straw barn is just right next to the hay loft. So it worked out really good. And then we got rid of the cow pasture, and now we got a chicken coop over there. So we straightened this out. I like this brown dirt because it makes it easy to see the ground contours, and when you can flatten them out and smooth them over, makes it look good. That's why I like this. That color. It has a natural dirt look, and I like that. See, our forests are clean. We've cleaned out the underbrush. We don't have a chance of fire breaking out in our areas. And we preserve the health of the trees. Birds are pretty loud, huh? Oh, in our lumberjack career, I know from watching Johnny Appleseed, the movie, as a little kid, that when if you're a lumberjack, if you cut a tree down, you're supposed to plant every tree you chop down. You're always supposed to plant 2 trees, right? And I've been trying to follow that rule in the game. Like if we go chop down a natural tree, I always plant 2 trees to replenish the tree. I don't know why they put that little dirt strip in the map. I think that was supposed to be where they wanted you to go start logging. So on the side, it felt that right there where it's all open, that's where I put so people could stage their heavy equipment and then run up through that little gap where a dirt road is, or mud, and make it easy on them. Plus, I made a little beach area where that creek goes by. I wouldn't swim in that creek, but that's really where the runoff is for the fields, right? That's what that creek is for. And it irrigates the water. We do have a log cabin over there with fire going. On the old Stone Valley map, that's where I put Wayne Manor, because in book 2 of Chronicles, or here's where I flatten out this area. I used a T-Rex to chop down all the trees and clean that area out and get all the underbrush cleaned up. And then I came back and smoothed it all out. But I made, in Chronicles of Earth 9, we put Wayne, or Gotham County is in Baltimore County, Maryland, and we made Baltimore Gotham City, and we put Wayne Manor in a place in Baltimore County called Spook Hill, Maryland. And then the closest map that I could find that kind of resembled it was the old Stone Valley map, the old barn. So that's what we're using as our, we call it the old manor. And then as we build that farm out, we're going to put a manor house down for the actual Wayne Manor, which is in book 2 and book 3 of our story. And then in the background of our serial, our heroine, the house they buy becomes the brownstone estate. And in Sims 4, that's the stage I'm building there. That's eventually what the house in Sim 4 is going to be. It's that brownstone estate, the interior set that we're building. And that's what I use Sims 4, is to map out what the houses and stages look like, and you get to see how the actors are on stage and how they interact with each other. And then I use this game to study like the farming aspect of where they live and how the economics work. Because Wayne Manor in our story, in the history that we wrote, they were a shipping company, a consignment company, and that's their family came over with the Dutch Indies shipping company and Virginia shipping company and so forth. They settled in the Maryland area, and Maryland is named after Mary Queen of Scots, and that area was founded by the shipping companies that landed there, and Virginia was named after the Virginia Shipping Company. And so that's how we modeled the Wayne family. And so far in our backstory, we go back to the 1850s when they settled in the area of Baltimore County. Baltimore was named after Lord Baltimore, and thus the land was given to him by the King of England. He was the lord there in the manor house. And I kind of want to model the Wayne family after the history of Baltimore, the actual guy, Baltimore. And so you kind of get that story and how they acquired the land, because they would have acquired the land at a time when the British ran the area, right? Because that's how old Maryland is. Maryland was around before the U.S., the United States, and so that's why it's the Maryland Assembly. And I lived in Maryland from 1996 to 2005. While I was in the Navy, I lived in the Tidewater area, Hampton Road Tidewater area, because I was stationed in Norfolk, but I spent a lot of time in Newport News, Virginia, which is where the shipyard is. where our ship was. And then when we migrated over to Norfolk Naval Shipyard, we spent a lot of time there and in Portsmouth. And what's cool, when I was in the Navy, not only did I spend time in Portsmouth, Virginia, but when we went to Europe, we went to Portsmouth, England, because we did the 50th anniversary of the D-Day landings. We were I was on an aircraft carrier, and we were the lead ship in the Armada that sailed over the Normandy on the 50th anniversary, which was kind of cool. And I thought it was cool that I went to the original Portsmouth. And then and I thought that was really cool. And, but anyway, as it applies to the Wayne family, I put the old farmhouse as the original manor, and they were a shipping company, and when they settled in the Maryland area, they raised horses, and that's why they have the stables there. And in the 1940s, Elizabeth Wayne is the one who runs the manor, because her husband died in the 1930s, died of cancer. And so she was left to raise the two boys, Patrick and Silas Wayne. And Patrick Wayne is the great-grandfather of Bruce Wayne. And in 1943, his great-grandfather, Patrick Wayne, is I think he's 27, and his younger brother, Silas Wayne, is 24, 25 in the story when we meet them in book 2 and book 3. And we tell that backstory of the whole family, because when Athenata absorbs Silas Goad was the district attorney for Gotham County in the 1890s, and he was corrupt at the time, and he ends up being murdered by Vincent Falcone, who is the father of Carmine Falcone. But Vincent Falcone lives a long time in our story, because who eventually becomes his wife, is what's her name? Celine Kyle, who's the mother of Selina Kyle. She lives a long time. She's the granddaughter of Circe in the story. And her mother is Arachnia in the story. And Arachnia lives in Charleston, South Carolina. And she comes over and settles in what becomes Charlestown. She was one of the settlers there that came over they were French, right? And Charlestown and the Carolina areas were named after the Carolinians, who go all the way back to Charlemagne. Charlemagne the First, who's also Louis the First, right? And the original French king. And she came over with Hippolyta in the 1500s. It's the 16th century, but like 15 something. Anyway, and they actually are friends in the story. And anyway, that's how we follow the Wayne family history long before Bruce Wayne is born, and how in our lore he becomes Batman not because of his father. His father was a doctor, but his mother, Martha Kane, is the daughter of Catherine Kane in our story. And in the 1940s, Catherine Kane was the original Batwoman in the story. And She has a daughter. Oop, this is the end. And that's the end of part 6. We'll be back in part 7. I'll continue our story. And thanks to our Patreon supporter, SHJ. He's been with us 6 months now. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for your hard work. And we'll see you in the next video.